Welcome back to the Illuminated Path. This is episode 49. Today's episode is a live coaching call with Lisa. In my call with Lisa, we talk all about her mindset around money. Lisa has a ton of awareness around where her beliefs and ideas of money stem from in terms of what she learned growing up. We talk about ways that she can shift her perspective around money, how she can really see money as a resource and practice having a lot of gratitude for what money brings to her life. We talked about budgeting, not seeing that as sacrificing, and just different ways and tools that she can go about working on her money mindset. So listen to the episode to hear the coaching call with Lisa. Thank you so much for joining me today, Lisa. It's so nice to have you. What can I help you with today? What kind of question do you have that I can coach you on?
I think today I'd like to maybe dive into unpacking a little bit more money mindset,
Yeah.
more beliefs, the belief systems that I have around money.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely one that is a common one. So I hear you there. So what kind of beliefs are you working with currently that you've kind of already uncovered about your money mindset?
I think the biggest aha moment that I was able to kind of break down was that money equals sacrifice.
Okay. Yeah.
And just wanting to kind of dive a little bit deeper into like I get the surface of it
Hmm.
and where it comes from and why, but I feel like there's something deeper that I need to kind of make a connection with.
Okay. Would you be comfortable sharing with what that kind of looks like for you? Like what
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
uncovered a little bit and how that feels to you.
yeah, for sure. So I grew up with a teacher as a father, and my mom mostly stayed home. She did a lot of like daycare for a little while until my brother and I got older, and then she worked. Um, so we always had, uh, we need to budget, but the way that it was approached to us was like, we can't afford that if we don't budget. Kind of like there was always these sort of like narratives around money.
Hmm.
I always, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard this too, is like, um, it was always we were different than the rich kind of
Mm.
thing, or that if you had money, then if you had money, then you're greedy or like,
Mm.
and never like direct comments like that for sure. But now knowing all of the money mindset, I can hear it in my parents still,
Yeah.
and I can catch it. But because my dad was a teacher, I would hear, my dad had summers off, right? And so I would hear a lot of comments like my mom saying, well, I wasn't able to go to school because we didn't have enough money. I mean,
Mhm.
my mom has an AA, but she didn't get to go to like, um, get a BA or a BS or anything like that. And so I'd hear a lot of comments about money being a sacrifice, basically. Like in order for, because I played a lot of sports, in order for you to go to camp, we have to give up this.
Mm.
Like that's what I mean by the budget.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, if we're gonna take, let you go to volleyball or basketball camp or softball camp or whatever, then or soccer, then we can't do this.
Yeah.
So it was always like, in order to do something, there was something I had to give up, or my parents had to give up. And so and then my mom had to give up going to school because of my dad, not having a big income or something as a teacher. So those are kind of the money, the language around it.
Yeah.
And I even now can hear things from my parents like, well, it's still the sacrifice, it's
Mhm.
still a lot of like, well, we can't do this unless we do this.
Yeah.
There's always like a but.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's always this, um, my youngest son has decided he's 9, he's going to be rich and he's going to be an entrepreneur and he doesn't know what he's going to do, but it's going to happen. Like he already lives this life.
I love it.
um, it's great.
Yeah.
And he's a manifesting generator. So I'm like, just keep doing it, buddy.
Mhm.
Just keep manifesting it.
I love it.
But like when he talks about it, I can hear it from my parents. Like, well, you need to make sure you have this, and you need to do this, and so there's always this condition
Mhm.
around money.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I think, where I've gotten to the sacrifice equals, or money equals sacrifice.
Yeah. I mean, that all makes complete sense, and it sounds like you definitely have, like, a huge understanding of where it comes from, but, um, do you feel like since you've been, on your own and in your career and everything that you've had to experience that, like, I know you have this experience from your past and your childhood, but have you had to yourself then had to make sacrifices like that?
That's a good question. So I think what I did with, so this is my personality,
Mhm.
is I didn't want to sacrifice. I went the extreme. I
Okay.
went to the other side
Yeah.
because I didn't understand it, right? So I did a lot of like, well, I don't really care. I'm going to put it on a credit card, or I
Mhm.
don't really care. I'm going to do this.
Okay.
Um, so I did a lot of that because this was, I'm 46 now, and this was a lot of my early 20s. Um, like I backpacked Europe for 6 weeks, things like
Amazing.
that, where it was like, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So now looking back, I'm like, oh, for me, that's an exchange, right? Like that
Mm.
experience was worth the money I spent,
Yeah.
right? And so like now I get it. But I did a lot of that kind of stuff where it was like if I wanted something, I just bought it.
Okay.
Whether it went on a credit card or whether I was struggling for money or whatever it was. And so I think I'm still kind of I'm definitely more cautious now and I'm definitely more aware, but I'm trying to find the balance of how to manage money in a way that doesn't come with conditions
Yeah.
so that I'm not going from one extreme to the other.
Yeah, that makes total sense, and I can see what you mean by, like, you went from having all of these conditions and having to sacrifice things to having, being in charge of your own money and then just being like, "Well, I'm not gonna sacrifice, like, I'm just gonna do what I wanna do."
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so I think it's a little bit of finding that balance in there and your relationship to money, really, like, do you, do you feel like you are able to see money in kind of a different, like, energetic way? Like, um, seeing it really as just, like, a resource and separating from, like, the whole societal standards around it, especially, like, that conditioning that you received of being rich, isn't necessarily a good thing, or having a lot of money, like, almost seeing that as a negative thing because you grew up with, um like a lack of and being a little bit in more
Mhm.
scarcity. So have you done like some work around trying to like almost like re-identify money and seeing it a little bit differently,
Yeah.
I guess?
Yeah, I have done some. I,
Okay.
I mean, I think that there's still quite a bit around it. So
Mhm.
I think that intellectually, 100%.
Yeah.
For the intellect to connect into my body, that I think is where it's still a little not quite aligned. So it's like now I have the mindset like I wish more people I knew were rich
Yeah.
because they're not greedy. They're very caring, very giving, and those sort of things. Where it's like I don't have the and I'm very careful with my language with my children as well.
Yeah.
Um, to make sure that I'm saying things in a way that where it's more like money's an energy
Mhm.
versus it being from a scarcity mindset. Um, so I think it's a really good question. So I definitely recognize like I look at money as if it was a friend,
Okay.
so like would I treat my friend like this?
Yeah.
If I'm being avoidant to money, then would I treat my friend like that? No.
Mhm.
So that I've kind of tried to rewire my thinking in that way where it's like just kind of having a different like a friend, like having money be like, how would I treat a friend
Yeah.
or in a relationship? And then I've done some work on like writing letters to money where
Okay.
it's like, I'm so sorry for how I treated you, how I've
Hmm.
looked at you, things like that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think some of it might have to do with like the trust, maybe. That's
So
what's coming up right now.
like the trust in yourself to manage the money, or the trust.
Maybe, or the trust in knowing that it will come.
Okay.
If like so, and which is obviously still a scarcity mindset. But I would also say managing. I think there's still a little bit of worry around that
Right. Yeah. Well, I heard you
as
say,
well.
like the not wanting to have conditions around it. Um,
Yeah,
so it almost seems like you really want to have like that complete freedom, right? Where you're not worried about having enough to do things. Um,
right.
but but do you see having like some sort of plan or budget or management structure, do you see that as a bad thing because of like the way you grew up with it, or is there a way that you can do that that actually feels good to you, like okay, I am in charge of it and I can allocate it in the right ways, but it doesn't feel like I'm being restricted?
No, that's a great question. So I think a little bit of both. My husband and I have been trying for years. We keep saying we need to sit down, we need to do this, but I think we're both a little avoidant of it from our own up. Like he grew up very, very poor. He had to live in a teepee for a while.
Mhm.
Money, there's definitely a lot of money mindset stuff around all of that.
Yeah.
So I think honestly, okay. Here's what it is. It's a fear. It's a fear of if I sit down, then I have to give things up.
Okay.
I'm afraid that if I sit down and I start to budget it, then it's going to be very blatantly obvious, like, oh, you can't live like this.
Mhm.
And if I just avoid it, then I can still live the way that I'm living.
Okay. But is that a fact? Do you know you're definitely going to have to give things up that you want to, or can you somehow make it work for you? Because I think that's definitely, like you just said, like the avoidance of it, but that almost pushes you further away from having a better relationship with it and knowing like how it's how it's working for you. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
No, yeah, I totally agree. And as you said, when you said, "Is that a fact?"
Yeah.
My first response was like, "No." Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's like, no, it's not a fact.
Okay.
Are there some things we may have to, and I don't even know if give up is the right word, but
Hmm.
maybe maneuver around?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Right. But I
Um,
think the give up piece comes from, from your past, is that condition of
yeah,
if you want to do something, you have to give it up. So, yeah, I
yeah.
mean, if you can like recognizing right now, no, it's not necessarily a fact. I think it is going to be important for you guys to dive in and don't be so restrictive about it and sit down and make a plan and do not give up things that you really don't want to. Like, how can you make it work? Maybe it's,
Right.
with if it's groceries, like maybe you can do a meal prep a little bit and have one less, eating out, or and not seeing it as giving it
Well,
up, but
we don't eat. Yeah, we
yeah.
don't. That's the thing. Groceries is a well. Groceries are expensive for everybody in general, but
Yeah.
we live out, so we do have to meal prep. We
Okay.
do have to. We
Yeah.
live like 45 minutes away from town, and
Mm.
so we really do have to sit down and go, okay, what are we going to eat for the week? What's this going to look like? But
Yeah.
even as you're saying that, it's like, there's some things where it's like, okay, fine, my kids don't need like the freaking unhealthy bags of chips that I let them have in the summer,
Mhm.
or like as you're saying that, it's like there's some things that can be, you know, altered, or
Yeah.
moved or shifted or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
I would definitely invite you to, like, when you really do sit down and take a look at all of this, like, see it more as, do I feel like I can better allocate it versus giving
Mm-hmm.
something up? Or does this maybe feel a little wasteful or unnecessary? And if that's the case, like, what can you do instead? Where is it going to go instead? But not giving up something. Like, don't give something up if it's going to feel terrible, because you can probably make it work. um but it's just about,
Yeah.
like, really sitting down and slowing yourself down and not being scared about, you know making some of those changes.
I love the way that you put that, because it's really sitting down, and if it's like, okay, well, we really want to do this, then what are some things that feel maybe a little more wasteful or not necessary? Or because I do, as you're saying that, I do believe that there's some things, at least for myself, I
Hmm.
can kind of see it in my husband as well, but where it's that, because we both came from such a restrictive mindset,
Yeah.
that we're both very like, nope, I'm going to just do it. I don't want someone to tell me no.
Yeah.
But then I also see, particularly him, because I've done work around it, but I particularly can see going and then going, oh, what did I, like that whole cycle.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the language around approaching it feels a lot better by
Yeah.
what you had said.
Yeah. And then one other thing that I kind of thought of too is, like, every time you are, I guess, receiving money, asking yourself, you know, did I have to sacrifice at all to receive this money? Or um really stepping into the gratitude behind when you are receiving money, whether it's getting a paycheck
Mm-hmm.
or receiving money in some other way. Like, have you done a lot or done anything in regards to, like, really feeling into that gratitude?
Yeah, I think one of the things I haven't done though, so when I receive it, I stay in the energy. I don't feel like I've given up anything,
Hmm.
but I liked the way that you like kind of framed it, when I receive money, as sort of just acknowledging that maybe it's safe, that it's okay, that it's,
Yeah.
just reminding myself I didn't sacrifice anything to get this. And in fact, usually when it comes, it's because I'm in alignment
Yeah,
and everything
absolutely.
feels good.
Yeah.
Um, so just maybe it's not taking it a step further than just being in gratitude, but really like sitting with acknowledging that it didn't come with sacrifice. It came with flow and ease.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the same kind of note is having gratitude and, like, being thankful for every purchase you make, until it feels a little less like the sacrifice piece, or any of that fear.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if it's a small thing like getting gas or buying one item at the store, like, really just diving into that gratitude and saying, like, thank you for having the resources to be able to purchase that, is just going to help you kind of lean into more of the, abundance versus the restriction or the sacrifice or the fear.
Mm-hmm.
And just reminding yourself
Mm-hmm.
every
Or the
time, like,
guilt.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And being
Yeah.
grateful for yourself for, the work that you do put in to receive that money, and that it does come from a place of being in flow and being in alignment, and how all of that is just like a huge cycle that you've set yourself up for receiving more, and for being in abundance and not feeling that guilt, because it is hard to, grow up with being in more lack and having a little bit more of a struggle. So it's hard to be able to be like, well, I have more money now and I don't have to feel guilty. But you think back to, your parents and your childhood. So,
Mm-hmm.
but your parents would want you to have more, even though, there's that mindset that you might not be able to change in them. But changing it for yourself, like, it's definitely not something to be guilty of.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess the guilt comes with like you said, not really, what's the word I'm looking for? So when I purchase something that may be unnecessary or I
Mhm.
don't really need, that's where the guilt comes in.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, I didn't really need this or want this, or, it was because I can feel that it's coming from that sacrifice
Yeah.
place. Um,
Yeah, I think in that case I would ask yourself like do I really want this? And if you do, then
yeah,
and if you're able to, like if there's not actually going to be any negative no negative consequences of it, ask yourself, let yourself have a second to think about it. Like, do I really want this? Yes, then allow yourself to have it and allow like really allow it and be okay with it.
yeah. And I've gotten better at asking those questions. Like,
Yeah.
is this something? And there's been times where I'm like, I really don't need it. It's fine. Like I'm really like, what am I doing? That kind of thing. And I have taken more control over some things where it's like, you know, getting my health back in order because
Mm,
I work with a naturopath.
yeah.
Obviously, insurance doesn't cover it, where it's like, okay, so
Right.
maybe I am spending a little bit more money here, but it's for my overall health,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with that. Um, because I still will hear my parents be like, "Well, how much is that? That's probably a pretty penny," or
Mhm.
like little comments like that. And then now I'm able to just go, "Oh, that's theirs. That's
Yeah.
their stuff.
Yeah,
That's not
absolutely.
mine."
Yeah.
Um,
And
so yeah,
yeah, when there's like real meaning behind it and you feel good about the decision to pay for that service or to buy that product, then that's a totally different energy for sure. Yeah.
hmm yeah.
Um yeah. Is there any other questions or any other thoughts coming up for you that I can kind of help with?
Um, I don't think so. I mean, as you were saying that, it was just like recognizing that 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 is being in the energy of money. That's that frequency
Yeah.
of where it's like I'm able now to recognize other people's money stuff and being able to put that energetic boundary up and go, that's not mine,
Yeah.
that's yours. And so no, feeling like with what you just said with a naturopath and in my own health journey and stuff, and um, it does feel good, and that is in flow, like with an energetic with money in a
Yeah.
good way.
Right.
So just maybe starting to recognize those pieces of it too,
Mhm.
and having a little bit more awareness around all of that, I think would be helpful for me as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I definitely would invite you to have that sit down conversation with your husband and, figure out if you do want to make some shifts and changes, but um definitely asking yourself like is that absolutely true? When you think like
Yeah,
I'm going to have to sacrifice or I have to give something up and that's not going to feel good, like is that definitely true and how can you guys really make it work for you? You guys can get on the same page about things and shift where you need to, but
yeah,
seeing it as more of a shift than a sacrifice.
yeah, yeah. I
Awesome.
like that. That feels much better
Yeah.
than avoiding.
Good. All right. Well, thank you so
Thank you.
much for coming on and letting me kind of talk you through this. And I hope you gained some insights. And I'd love to hear from you and see how it helped.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.